Welcome to Lesson 08, the one where we stop pretending iptables and nftables are separate worlds and start operating the hybrid reality that's actually running on your servers. On modern RHEL and Debian, when you type iptables, you're not getting the legacy tool. You're getting a shim that translates your commands into the nftables kernel backend. Same kernel, same state, just different views on top. Notice the giveaway, the parentheses after the version. That little tag, nftables, is the system telling you the truth about what's underneath. So here's the roadmap for this lesson. 4 skills you need to operate cleanly while the fleet is in mixed state, which for most teams is a matter of weeks. First, how the shim actually works under the hood, iptables-nft to libnftnl to nftables. Second, reading the hybrid world, because iptables save and nft list rule set will show you different views of the same state. Third, choosing your backend through the alternative system. And fourth, knowing when to stop straddling and fully cut over. Let's ground that with a single picture. 3 different commands enter from the left: classic iptables, iptables-legacy, and native nft. They flow through 3 different libraries in the middle: the iptables-nft Shim, RHEL iptables, and libnftnl. But notice where they land. The first and the third converge on the same nftables structures in the kernel. Only iptables-legacy peels off into its own iptables state. So when you hear me say 1 kernel, 2 interfaces, 3 views, this is the diagram behind those words. With that diagram in mind, here's the practical question you ask the moment you log into any unfamiliar server. Which backend am I actually talking to? 3 commands settle it. First, iptables. Version tells you whether your binary is the shim writing to nftables or the RHEL legacy tool. Second, update alternatives shows what the system has chosen as default. And third, the definitive view, list both kernel tables directly. nft list rule set for nftables and iptables-legacy L for xt-tables. If both come back populated, stop. You have 2 active backends, and that's the dangerous state we're going to spend the rest of this lesson untangling. Let's make that abstract idea concrete. Write a single rule through the shim, accept TCP on port 22, then read it back 3 ways. Iptables. Save shows you the familiar rule syntax. nft list rule set shows the same rule in native nftables grammar with meta L4 proto and a counter. And iptables-legacy? Empty. Because legacy reads xt-tables, and your rule lives in nftables. Same kernel moment, 3 different views, and one of them is looking at the wrong table entirely. When you walk into a real fleet, you'll find machines in 3 distinct transition states, and you need to recognize each on site. State A is legacy only. The iptables binary really is iptables, writing to xt-tables, nft rule set empty. That's your RHEL 7 starting point. State B is shim only, the auto-migrated default on RHEL 8 and Debian 11. Old scripts still work, but they're landing in nftables underneath. State C is the dangerous one, both legacy and nft actively writing rules, 2 kernel states, tools disagreeing, packets dropped silently. Detect it and pick one immediately. So how do you actually flip between those backends? On RHEL and Debian, the iptables command is a symlink managed by update alternatives. 3 commands matter. Display shows you which binary is currently wired up. Config lets you switch between iptables-nft and iptables-legacy. And that's it. But here's the warning that bites people. Switching the alternative does not migrate your rules. The nftables rule set stays put, the legacy state is empty, and suddenly your firewall looks completely different. Always plan a reload before traffic resumes. It's worth pausing to ask why the distros went through all this trouble in the first place. 3 structural reasons. 1. Removing iptables outright would have broken millions of legitimate scripts overnight. Container runtimes, cloud init, vendor tooling, internal automation. Swapping the backend while preserving the API bought everyone 5+ years of compatibility. 2. Migration is a gradient, not a switch. The Shim lets the kernel run NFT while humans and runbooks still speak iptables, bridging the gap between technical and operational change. And 3. The audit ecosystem needed time. Compliance scanners and monitoring agents that parse iptables save couldn't break on day one, so the Shim emits that format from NFT state. The lesson underneath all three: API stability beats internal purity, and ecosystems always migrate slower than kernels. With that context locked in, here's the practical payoff: a single cheat sheet for the hybrid period. 3 columns, 3 jobs. Detection answers what's actually running, which binary, which alternative, what nftables and legacy each hold, and whether IPv6 lives in the same place. Operations covers the daily moves, dumping and restoring rule sets, forcing the shim, flushing legacy, and translating old rules forward. And warning signs name the failure modes you'll actually hit: both states populated, counters that don't match, scripts that write rules nobody can see. Print it, tape it next to your L03 audit sheet, and you've got a same kernel, different views map for any box you touch. Now let's put hands on keys. 3 drills, escalating in time and difficulty, all on a throwaway RHEL 9 or Debian 12 VM. First, 20 minutes to confirm your shim is real. Write a rule with iptables, watch it surface in NFT list rule set. Then 30 minutes on the classic trap. Switch alternatives to legacy and watch your rules vanish, even though they're still sitting in nftables. Finally, 45 minutes to manufacture state C deliberately. Rules in both backends, 2 different worlds, 1 kernel. Do these once, and silent pass-throughs stop being mysterious. With the drills behind you, here are the 5 mistakes that have actually taken production down. Trusting iptables, save as your backup misses everything on the NFT side, use NFT list rule set instead. Switching alternatives during traffic makes rules vanish instantly, so confine that to change windows. Mixing native NFT with the shim creates 2 views auditors can't reconcile. Pick one interface. Believing iptables version alone hides a legacy binary still writing in the background. And finally, letting the hybrid drift without a sunset date compounds the cost forever. Set the cutover on the calendar. And that's lesson L08. You've mapped the shim architecture, you understand the 3 coexistent states, you have the detection commands at your fingertips, and you know the 5 traps that bite in production. The hybrid world isn't a mystery anymore. It's legible. Next up, lesson 09, performance. We'll put hard numbers behind iptables versus nftables, show you where the migration actually wins on throughput, and give you the data you need to justify the work. See you there.